Emergency. The jet's down and we're stranded. The radio crackled with desperation, slicing through the oppressive heat of Miami International Airport. Javier Torres, a 32-year-old mechanic with calloused hands and a heart full of grit, was elbow-deep in engine grease wrestling with a stubborn bolt on a rusty cargo plane. The sun blazed down, turning the tarmac into a skillet, but Javier barely noticed. His life was a constant hustle, 12-hour shifts, a crumbling apartment 2 months behind on rent, and a pickup truck that coughed more than it ran. Every day felt like a battle just to keep his head above water. But today, June 9th, 2025, something extraordinary was about to ignite, a moment that would rewrite his story forever. Javier wasn't just any mechanic. He had a gift, a sixth sense for machines, honed through years of scavenging junkyards and learning from his late father, a man who could make any engine purr. That talent was about to be tested like never before. His boss's voice boomed through the radio. "Torres, we've got a crisis. Billionaire's jet is grounded. You're our guy. Move it." The jet belonged to Elena Vasquez, a tech mogul whose $12 billion empire made headlines daily. She was en route to Dubai to seal a deal that could reshape the tech world, and every minute her Gulfstream G650 sat idle was $1 million loss. The pressure was on, and Javier was the underdog stepping into the ring. He grabbed his battered toolbox, its hinges squeaking from years of use, and sprinted across the tarmac. Sweat stung his eyes as he dodged baggage carts and jet blasts, his heart pounding like a drum. The sleek silver jet loomed ahead, a wounded giant surrounded by a frantic crew. And there, standing apart, was Elena Vasquez herself. Her tailored navy suit was pristine despite the 90-degree heat, her jet black hair pulled into a tight bun. Her green eyes locked onto Javier like a laser, sharp and unyielding. "You're the one fixing my jet?" she asked, her voice cool, but edged with curiosity like she was sizing up a puzzle. Javier nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, ma'am. Javier Torres." His overalls were stained, his boots scuffed, but he stood tall under her gaze. This wasn't just a job, it was a make-or-break moment. The crew muttered doubts, their whispers carrying over the hum of distant planes. Elena's expression was unreadable, but her presence was magnetic, commanding the chaos around her. "You've got one shot," she said, glancing at her watch. "Don't waste it." Javier's stomach churned. Failure wasn't an option. Not. With his bills piling up and his dreams of owning a repair shop slipping further away, he cracked open his toolbox, his hands steady despite the stakes. This was his arena, and he was ready to fight. Javier knelt beside the Gulfstream G650's engine, the Miami sun scorching his back. The jet's issue was a mechanic's nightmare, a ruptured fuel line leaking like a sieve, tangled with an electrical glitch frying the control system. The other mechanics had given up, their tools scattered like defeated soldiers. "It's hopeless," one muttered, shaking his head. But Javier's pulse raced with determination. He'd faced worse, cobbled together fixes on junkyard wrecks, with nothing but grit and ingenuity. This was his moment to shine. Elena Vasquez stood nearby, arms crossed, her emerald eyes tracking Javier's every move. "You have 1 hour," she said, her voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "After that, heads will roll." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but Javier tuned them out, his world narrowing to the maze of wires and pipes before him. His hands moved with surgical precision, tracing the fuel line's damage. It wasn't just a leak, it was a cascade failure, one wrong move from grounding the jet for days. Elena's deal in Dubai hung in the balance, and so did Javier's future. He flashed back to a lesson from his father. When the book fails, trust your gut. Javier's gut screamed for a bold fix. He bypassed the damaged fuel line, rerouting it through a secondary conduit, a trick no manual would dare suggest. The electrical glitch was trickier, a short circuit buried deep in the panel. With a steady hand, he rewired it using a technique he'd perfected on a beat-up Cessna years ago, his fingers dancing under pressure. Sweat dripped onto the tarmac, each drop marking the ticking clock. 47 minutes later, Javier slammed the panel shut. Try it now, he yelled to the pilot. The engines roared to life, a thunderous hum that silenced the crew's doubts. The jet was back. Elena's lips curved into a near smile, her gaze softening. Impressive, she said, stepping closer, her heels clicking on the tarmac. What's your name? Javier Torres, ma'am, he replied, wiping grease on his overalls. Her eyes lingered not just on his work, but on him, as if seeing something beyond the grime. For a moment, the billionaire and the mechanic stood as equals, bound by a spark of mutual respect. The jet's engines hummed, ready for takeoff. But Elena Vasquez wasn't done with Javier Torres. As the crew scrambled to prep the Gulf Stream, she waved them off and turned to him. Walk with me, she said, her voice softer now, like a breeze cutting through the Miami heat. Javier hesitated, his toolbox heavy in his hand, but followed her along the tarmac. The skyline shimmered in the distance, a world of glass and wealth so far from his own. He expected a quick handshake, maybe a bonus if he was lucky. What he got instead was a conversation that turned his world upside down. Elena's heels clicked with purpose, but her questions were personal. How'd you learn to fix something like that? She asked, her green eyes curious, not cold. Javier, usually guarded, found himself opening up. He spoke of his late father, a mechanic who taught him to listen to engines like they had souls. He admitted the grind. Long hours, unpaid bills, a dream of owning a repair shop fading with every late rent notice. Elena listened, really listened, her guarded demeanor cracking like ice under sunlight. You're not just a mechanic, she said. You solve problems others can't. That's rare. Javier shrugged, embarrassed but intrigued. Why was a billionaire bothering with him? Then came the bombshell. Elena stopped walking, her gaze locking onto his. I've met thousands of people, Javier. None have your spark. Marry me. The words hit like a lightning bolt. Javier's toolbox nearly slipped from his grip. Marry you? He stammered, his voice cracking. Ma'am, I'm nobody. I fix engines, why me? Elena's smile was genuine, unguarded. Because you didn't just fix my jet. You showed me what's possible when someone cares enough to try. Javier's head spun. Was this a billionaire's whim? A test? Her eyes were steady, sincere, no trace of a joke. The crew gawked from a distance, the tarmac buzzing with whispers. Think about it, Elena said, pressing her business card into his hand. I leave for Dubai in an hour. Call me when you're ready. As she walked back to her jet, Javier stood frozen, the card burning a hole in his palm, his future hanging in the balance. Javier sat on the sagging couch in his cramped Miami apartment, the hum of a flickering fluorescent light filling the silence. Elena Vasquez's sleek business card lay on the coffee table, its gold-embossed logo taunting him. The words, "Marry me," echoed in his mind, as unreal now as they'd been on the tarmac. His life was a grind, overdue rent, a truck that rattled, like a tin can, and dreams of a repair shop that felt like chasing a mirage. Could a billionaire's proposal really be his ticket out? Or was it a leap into a world he didn't belong in? His buddies at the shop were no help. She's a billionaire, Javi. You're crazy if you don't say yes, one laughed over beers. Nah, man, she's out of your league, another teased. But Javier couldn't shake Elena's eyes, fierce yet vulnerable, like she saw something in him he barely saw himself. He grabbed his cracked phone and dove into research. Elena Vasquez, orphaned at 15, a coding prodigy who built a $12 billion tech empire from nothing. Ex-Post painted her as a loner, her icy exterior hiding a heart that trusted few. Javier saw echoes of his own hustle. Different worlds, same fight to prove something. He pictured saying yes. A life with Elena could mean funding his shop, escaping the endless hustle. But marriage? To a stranger? His Catholic upbringing nagged at him. Love was supposed to come first, not a deal struck on a tarmac. Yet Elena's belief in him sparked something. She wasn't just offering money. She saw his potential, his spark. What if this was his shot to build something bigger, not just for himself, but with her? Javier paced, the card in his hand. Saying no meant staying stuck, scraping by, maybe. Losing his apartment. Saying yes was a gamble, into a world of private jets and power plays he didn't understand. He wasn't in love, not yet, but he felt a pull, a flicker of possibility. Could he trust it? As dawn broke, he clutched the card tighter, his heart racing. This wasn't just about a proposal. It was about choosing who he could become. 3 days after the tarmac showdown, Javier's thumb hovered over Elena Vasquez's number. His tiny Miami apartment felt smaller than ever, the weight of her card and her proposal pressing on his chest. He'd spent sleepless nights wrestling with doubt. Was he crazy to consider this? A billionaire and a mechanic? Yet Elena's words, "You have a spark," echoed, stirring something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. He dialed her number. Heart, pounding like a misfiring engine. She answered on the first ring, her voice warm but expectant. "Javier, I hoped you'd call." They met at a quiet cafe overlooking Miami's ocean, the sunset painting the sky in fiery hues. Elena, free of her power suit, wore a simple white blouse, her black hair loose, softening her billionaire aura. No jets, no crew, just two people at a rickety table, waves crashing in the background. Javier expected a sales pitch, but Elena spoke from the heart. "I don't need a husband to complete me," she said, stirring her coffee. "I want a partner who challenges me, who builds something real. You fixed my jet when no one else could. Imagine what we could do together." Javier leaned forward, his calloused hands clasped. He shared his dream. A repair shop where he could mentor kids from his neighborhood, give them the skills his father gave him. Elena's eyes lit up. "I'll fund it," she said. "Not as charity, as a partnership. We build it together." Her vision wasn't just business, it was a shared future, grounded in mutual respect. Javier felt the spark she saw in him flicker brighter. "I'm not saying yes to marriage," he said, voice steady but nervous. "Not yet, but I'm in. Let's see where this goes." Elena's smile was radiant, like the sun breaking through clouds. They shook hands not as billionaire and mechanic, but as equals betting on a dream. As they parted, Javier glanced back, the ocean breeze carrying a promise of something new. This wasn't love, not yet, but it was a beginning, a leap into a future where he could be more than he'd ever imagined.